Some state lawmakers want to put limits on who can participate in women's sports.
Atlanta News First reporter Abby Casouris explains they are preparing legislation to keep transgender girls from playing at the college and the high school levels.
Today, the Senate Study Committee on the Protection of Women's Sports released their final recommendations. They met 4 times and heard testimony from physicians, athletes, and parents of transgender children.
None. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Republican Committee Chairman Greg Dolezal suggests a ban on transgender girls in sports at the high school and collegiate level for public and private schools that play public schools, requiring schools to have separate changing rooms based on biological sex, withholding state funding to those schools if they don't create separate changing areas, and repealing the authority of the Georgia High School Association to regulate transgender women's participation in sports.
Motion carries unanimously.
Lieutenant Governor Burt Jones, who commissioned the study, tweeted on Friday his approval of the recommendations.
This entire effort is how it further stigmatizes and spreads misinformation and disinformation about the lives and realities of transgender individuals.
Georgia Equality Director Jeff Graham fears if these recommendations become legislation, members of the LGBTQ+ community would be alienated from playing with their friends.
And only 2 incidences have been brought up. One, an elite competition of NCAA athletes that took place at Georgia Tech, but did not actually involve Georgia college students. And another, a high school track competition that took place years ago in Connecticut.
The final report will be signed and left on the desks of every single senator when they meet for the next legislative session in January. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Casouris.